I'm not an expert on relationships or a theologian. I'm just sharing what I'm learning. I thought it was interesting when I was a kid that something as simple as a flower was actually very complex. It's made up of millions and billions of atoms all swirling around each other and have to hold the shape it does, while being on a planet that's rocketing through space at thousands of miles per hour around the sun. That's part of a solar system with other planets all hurtling through space. And that's part of a galaxy made up of solar systems. They're all in the right place in the galaxy, spinning through space. And all I have to do is enjoy the flower. The universe is very big and complex. It's big and huge. There's a lottery called Mega Millions. And to win the jackpot, you have to pick 6 numbers correct. To win the money, someone would have to beat the staggering odds. The odds of winning that jackpot are 1 in 302.5 million. People play their whole lives and never win. That's how hard it is to win. And that's just picking 6 random plastic balls. Imagine not just 6, but 20 plus numbers. And these not just being numbers, but settings of a finely tuned machine that have to operate in razor-thin margins. You have to pick out randomly out of billions of choices to get the right combo. There are 20 plus different fine setting points. They have to be just right, with a very narrow band of error for each one. And all of these have to exist at the same time for there to be life, not only on Earth, but anywhere in the universe. Gravity is set at just right for life to flourish. If it was set just a bit stronger, animals the size of humans would be flattened. Grass and elephants gone. Insects would need much stronger legs just to walk around. Gravity has an incredible narrow margin for life to exist. The cosmological constant, or the energy density of empty spaces in the universe, is set at an incredibly thin margin. If the number is large and positive, stars, galaxies, and planets would have never formed. And if the number was large and negative, the newly formed universe would have collapsed in on itself. It could have been set at any number, but it's set to the right setting to be life-friendly. It's a 1 in a billion number lottery for each setting, and that's a huge number to have to arrive at by chance. Add the calibration of gravity to the cosmological constant, then the fine-tuning would be to a precision of 1 part in 100 million trillion. That's the equivalent of hitting 1 atom in the entire known universe. And that's just 2 settings out of 20 plus ones that are needed. Grown when some scientists say, given enough time, it'll come about by random chance. The chance is so infinitesimally small, it's like there's no chance. There was a character in a movie that was asking another character if there's a chance they'd go on a date with them. The girl said, "There's 1,000,001 chance I'd go out with you." Basically, no. The guy looks at her for a minute and then he says, "So you're saying there's a chance?" It's like, groan. Another fine-tuning is the difference between mass and mass between neutrons and protons. Increase the mass of a neutron by 1 part in 700, and nuclear fission in stars would stop. There'd be no energy source for life. If the electromagnetic force in the universe were slightly stronger or weaker, life in the universe would not be possible. My next point is a little complicated, so bear with me. You look at a picture of an atom. The protons in the center of the nuclei, or the center of the atom, look like they're sitting happily in the center with the neutrons. But since the protons are positively charged, they repel or push against each other, like magnets that are positively charged. So there's a nuclear force that holds all the bits together in the nuclei, that if it wasn't there, the protons would have pushed away from the nuclei, or the center, and the atom would have dissipated and it ceased to exist. Decrease that nuclear force by a little over 50%, a tiny amount, and life couldn't exist. Like tent poles on a tent. If they aren't strong enough to support the tent will collapse. Or if a balloon isn't strong enough, when you blow it up, the balloon will pop. So true of an atom. Protons that make up an atom are all pushing against each other because they have similar charges. If the nuclear forces that hold an atom together were too weak, the protons would tear the atom apart and the atom would pop. CHNOPS, or the acronym for carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulphur, are the 6 essential ingredients for life. If the nuclear forces that held them together were too weak, we'd only have one of the 6 essential ingredients for life, hydrogen, instead of 6. That the moon is the right size is another point of fine-tuning. If it were smaller, like the moons of Mars, it wouldn't have the gravitational pull it does, and we wouldn't have a stable climate. And if we didn't have a stable climate, we couldn't exist. We are within the galactic habitable zone. That is, our solar system resides in the habitable part of the galaxy. We have access to the heavy elements without being in the dangerous galactic center, where the stars are denser and blast out dangerous levels of radiation. If radiation levels are too high, life can't exist. And these are just a few of the fine point settings. Atomic clocks were first invented in 1949. They're marvels of human ingenuity and design. It's a clock that works with atoms, as opposed to most other clocks, which are mechanical or digital. Atomic clocks count how many times an atom wiggles back and forth. These are currently the most exact clocks in the world. Many of us have never seen an atomic clock face to face, no pun intended, or observed one in person. Yet they are still marvels of design and technology that we use to set our clocks by. Some of us have never seen or observed the Eiffel Tower or the Taj Mahal in person, yet they're still marvels of human ingenuity, design, and art. The Earth, too. If God had stopped with just the animals and fish and insects, and not made humans, and the Earth was not observed, it would still be a finely, highly designed marvel of the universe, made by our Creator. Each of these fine-tuning points would have to stay constant for millions and billions of years for life to develop via evolution. And if fine-tuning got there by chance, why wouldn't the number on the dial keep moving? Why would it stay static for so long? When a ship does not have anyone at the helm, it tends not to make it from point A to point B by chance. It needs a captain at the helm steering it. Either capsizes from the motion of the waves and the ship not being steered correctly to meet the waves, or it runs aground on the rocks. Or at best, it wanders the ocean meaninglessly, lost, never reaching its destination. It might start in the right direction, being given a push from shore, but the route of the ship tends to degrade quickly because of entropy. Most things in the universe tend to wind down because of entropy. Kind of glad God does the heavy lifting of keeping all these things going, and I can just sit back and enjoy the beauty of the creation that He's made. And now here's Dr. Amy O'Ehring talking about if religion is true and there is a God, how do I know that Christianity is the right one?
I think this is a really important question, and perhaps you're sort of searching and wondering what is the truth and how can we know. And I think what I would encourage you to do is to look at the existence of God and any claims of any religion in the same way that you would look at other truth claims. So, sometimes we make the mistake of thinking religion is this sort of separate category of life and reality that is about preference, or it's about your family, or it's about geography, where you happen to have been born. And it doesn't sort of compete in the arena of ideas like any other idea would have to. But actually, the Christian faith says that's not the case. The central claims of the Christian faith are that God exists and there is evidence for His existence that you can examine and you can explore, and that one of the primary evidences for God existing is that He entered human history in the person of Jesus, and you can explore the historical evidence for that. And then the Christian faith goes on to claim that the deepest questions of the human heart, our brokenness, our propensity to sin and do wrong to others, are actually resolved by the person of Jesus through His death on the cross, and that His claim to be God and to be able to deal with our sin is evidenced as being true by the resurrection, and there's evidence around the empty tomb. And so, unlike other religious systems which may be more philosophical, like the Buddha, he said, follow my philosophy and follow this sort of sevenfold path to enlightenment, and you can reach this sort of state of oneness with reality. And actually, unlike Muhammad, who said, I'm this prophet, and if you accept my words and you kind of do good deeds, then you too can go to heaven and be with God. There isn't a sort of evidence claim around those religious systems. As you look into alternative claims, what you see is that even relying on, certainly my experience and experience of millions of other people, that when you do examine the evidence, it points towards the existence of God. It points towards Jesus, God with us, and his resurrection from the dead really undergirding that claim.